The December 2018 regular meeting of the Newbury School District Board of Education is called to order. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 13:15 of the Ohio Revised Code. Mrs. Palmer, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Matthews.
Present.
Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sedeby. Here. Mr. Simpkins. Here. Mrs. Zoll.
Here. I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 10th, 2018 regular meeting of the Newbury School District Board of Education meeting. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval. The public can access the agenda through the district's website. The agenda is available through the district's website for public viewing the Friday prior to the board meeting. Board members have the opportunity to call the superintendent and treasurer for information concerning agenda items and to request, if needed, additional information. There are 2 places on the agenda when the board entertains comments from the community. The first hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on agenda items only. The second hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on any subject you wish to speak about, whether it be on an item on the agenda or another issue. When addressing the board, please state your name and comments are limited to 5 minutes. Please address questions to the president. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additional questions or corrections to tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll.
Yes. Before we hear the first hearing of the public, I'd like Mrs. Matthews, she'd like to say a few words about our beloved teacher that we lost, Mrs. Myra Mason.
It was an unfortunate news to get. Myra was an amazing lady. We had her for our CNC class. We had her for typing, journalism. She taught business. She was a longtime member of St. Paul's Church as well as St. Edward's Church. And she one year decided she was going to teach or sponsor Teen Institute. That was the first year Teen Institute had a sleepover at Newbury Gym. And Maggie and I both got wrangled into that for her. And she made us take a run to get bonbons before we got locked in because she couldn't make it the night without some chocolates. So, it was an emotional weekend. The lake was beautiful, and we'll miss her very much.
Okay. Moving on to the hearing of the public. At this time, is there anyone who'd like to address the board on agenda items only? Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to recommend approval of the donations listed in the consent agenda A1 through A3.
Second.
Mrs. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. Sanders, Mr. Sedeby,
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll.
Thank you. Agenda item B1 is a recommendation to schedule the tax budget hearing for fiscal year 2020 for January 7, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. here in the auditorium, and to schedule the annual organizational meeting for January 7 at 6:45 p.m. and to appoint Maggie Zoll to serve as president pro tem for the organizational meeting until the board elects a president. The regular meeting will then begin at 7 p.m. on January 7, 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. Sanders, Mr. Sedeby,
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, at this time we have several presentations. I'd like to begin by asking Mrs. Tomasetti to introduce this month's Students of the Month as well as give a general update.
Good evening, Dr. Hoynes, Madam President, and members of the board. I'd like to introduce our Students of the Month for the month of October and November. Here, it's a lengthy list of students. I did see a few of them here, so for some of them, instead to save some time, I'm not going to read everybody's right up, just the ones that are here tonight. So in the month of October, our Students of the Month were chosen by our related arts teachers. First one from Physical Education, Mr. Fieldhouse knighted Carter Pavick. And he's here. Come on up, Carter. And Mr. Fieldhouse said that Carter is always on task and respectful to other students and the equipment, and Carter always follows directions. He also knighted Corey Crampton and Delaney Clark. And Mrs. Tokarski knighted Cole Welker, Marley Balzan, and Emily Mullet, who is here tonight. Come on up, Emily. And Mrs. Tokarski said that Emily is kind to others, thoughtful and very creative. She excels in creating art and always has a positive attitude. Ms. Bodner knighted Gabe Collins, Eliza Otto, and Ada Petrovic. And I saw Eliza. Come on up, Eliza. And Ms. Bodner said that Eliza she has exemplified excellence in cooperation by sharing, working in groups with others, and taking turns in class. She's shown musical integrity through her development in her singing voice and her instrument technique. And she's gone above and beyond to work hard in the music classroom and be a nice black knight. Mr. Kennedy from music knighted Shane Sayer Luoma, and he is here. Come on up. And Mr. Kennedy said that Shane is an excellent black knight. He's very friendly, a very friendly student, and whenever he sees him in the hallway, he always says hello. Shane shows excellence in his listening skills and participation in music class. Mr. Kennedy also knighted Kylie Kelly and Craig Honnessy and Kara Deister. Mrs. Desati from our social emotional learning class knighted Savannah Sinkovic, Olivia Schwartz, and Jesus Morales. And those are our students from October. And then from November, those students were knighted by our classroom aides, our bus drivers, and our recess proctors. And Mrs. Everett knighted Lexus Parrott, Mrs. Medachek knighted Stewie Coles, Mrs. Kowalski, Stewie's here, I'm sorry, and Mrs. Medachek. She said that Stewie's attitude for learning has excelled this year. He has great manners that he uses throughout the day as he helps clean up the classroom along with holding the door open for others, and he's eager to help his classmates. He shows Black Knight pride and his perseverance to stay focused on his studies throughout the day. Mrs. Kowalski knighted Mason Starr. Mrs. Mayer and Mrs. Desati knighted Shane Gordon. Mrs. Maher knighted Adam Legan. Mrs. Parr knighted Kayla Colley. Mrs. Fagan knighted Lexus Parrott. Cindy Krakowski knighted Rowan Brastoff. And Mrs. Kirby knighted Mila Trikarchi. And those are our students of the month for the last 2 months. Congratulations. Presidents. Our fourth graders are doing famous people, and our fifth grade are doing Native Americans. So that's from 1:30 to 2:30 on Friday, and it is open to the public as well. On November 28th, I went to Columbus with some members of our PBIS team, where we were awarded the gold medal for our work with our PBIS. We were one of 10 schools in the entire state that received the gold medal. So we are really proud of our work with PBIS. I also shared. I shared the booklet up there where you can see there were 130 schools that received awards at the conference a couple weeks ago. We have our holiday concerts coming up, and our kindergarten through third grade concert is on Tuesday, December 17th at 6 p.m. And our 5th through junior high concert will be on Thursday the 19th at 6 p.m. One of the things that we've been working on, it's a school-wide project. It's called the Cuddle Bear Project, and you might have seen it on our webpage or on our social media pages, where we're asking people to purchase its Cuddle Bear book, and they will be donated to the NICU there at Hillcrest. Mrs. Volker is in charge of that. Our goal was to reach 40 books being sold in that time, so I have an update on that. So Mrs. Volker said that the Cuddle Bear Drive has been in full swing since November 20th. We would like to personally thank the Rayner family for their amazing donation of 40 Cuddle Bear sets. The 40 sets were our initial goal for this drive, and since that would provide enough sets for every baby at Hillcrest NICU, with a couple of extra sets for new families. With the other donations and the 50% match from the publisher, as of December 8th, we've had 66 sets purchased. Mrs. Volker has contacted a neonatologist to find out how many babies and other Cleveland Clinic NICUs can hold, and since we have over a month left in our drive, the original goal has been increased to 130 sets so that we can donate enough sets and extras not only to Hillcrest but to Fairview Hospital and to main campus as well. The drive goes until January 15th, so please help us reach our goal. We also need bakers to set up a dessert bar when we deliver the books to Hillcrest. If you have any questions, you can email Mrs. Volker, and if you're interested in baking, you can email her as well. We don't have an exact date yet, but that will happen in February. The elementary school is also, through our student council, is going to have a hot cocoa drive on December 20th and 21st. The proceeds from this sale will go towards the purchase of NICU-specific onesies to be donated when we deliver the Cuddle Bear sets and baked goods. So we thank everyone for their continued support of this project. And then the last thing that I have to share tonight is, on Friday we received our third grade reading test scores. Students in third grade had the opportunity to take the end of course exam for third grade in October, so it's quite early. They were only in school for 2 months. And I'm happy to report that 86% of our students have met the third grade reading guarantee score of 677 or better already. That only leaves us with 3 students to go. So I'm really proud of the hard work that all of our teachers in K through 3 have done, especially with our literacy collaborative. We did have 31% who were already proficient or better, but even at the 677 mark, we only have 23 points to go to close that gap. So we are really excited about those scores. Last year at this time, we had about 50% who met the third grade guarantee benchmark, so we've increased that by 35%. So great job to our teachers there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Tomasetti. Congratulations to all our students of the month, and also congratulations to especially our primary teachers. It takes all of them to get those great third grade scores, and congratulations to our students. Good job. Mrs. Sanders is here tonight to give us an update from the Black Knight parents.
Okay, Mrs. Tomasetti already touched on the Wax Museum December 14th. Tomorrow, December 11th, is the last day to order any apparel if you wanted to get it for Christmas. Of course, you can order it afterwards, it just would not be guaranteed Christmas. But if you need a form, go to the website under support organizations, as BKP, print out a form and hand it into the office. Donna Holden is the one to contact if you have any questions. The 13th, which is Thursday, is our holiday shop. This is for K through 5 students, and they shop in the little gym here for parents, siblings, family members. And just a recap of anybody I'm sure that has had kids here has something that jingles, parents light up, sparkles. Dads have keychains of every single type, I'm sure, a collection. I even got a squeaky toy for a dog we didn't even have one year. So there's all kinds of things that the kids will purchase for you, so make sure that you fill out any forms that you get sent home so that the kids can do that. And also, it will be open to the public from 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And Megan Barton is taking care of this, and if you would like to help volunteer, you can certainly give her a call or contact Megan. She'll be glad to put you on the list. Then to December 21st are our holiday parties. And the teacher wish list. We have a wish list for staff or teachers if they need something for their classroom. Let us know. It's not even Christmas holiday time, and it's all throughout the year. We've had teachers that requested beanbag chair for like a little cozy nook for reading. We had Mrs. Sebos wanted a little convection oven for her room. There's different stuff. If you think that there's something that you might need, contact the BKP member or myself, and we'll see about hooking you up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I'm going to change the agenda a little bit tonight and move to Mrs. Matthews for the board legislative report.
Chock full of stuff today. On the 6th, there was an inkling that while the House was reviewing some ROC cleanup verbiage, that a bill was going to be, verbiage was going to be put in there to extend vouchers for the state of Ohio. It does not seem that has happened. I was scouring to see how that ended up. When I looked through the minutes to the meeting, it wasn't that piece of legislation wasn't even talked about. So it was an attempt to clean up Ohio Revised Code that was going to possibly add some. So just something to keep track of, that we may see increased voucher systems, at least an attempt to increase vouchers moving forward. House Bill 491, we talked about before, it's for adopting a policy when kids get suspended. So schools will have to say how they're planning on having children. It's been introduced to the governor now, that's where it's at. House Bill 776. This is to require public schools to have training on food allergies. So it's kind of an exciting one to see how, if it gets through, that one has just been introduced as well. How it'll be implemented, that could be kind of fun for kids, I presume, to kind of go through different types of food allergies and awareness for their friends. Let's see. And then the final one, I just want to touch on the model curriculum. They have a timeline, so we all know there's certain standards the state adopts, and then the school districts get to decide how they're going to implement those standards. So February 27th of 2017 was when they were revising those policies. They've gone through multiple levels, and they've gotten feedback from over 962, I believe it was, educators and stakeholders on the changes that they've made. Implementation is happening now through winter, basically, of this year for 2019. The changes that they've made to their standards should be implemented into all the district's curriculum. And I think that is about it. But the response, I've seen great, 697. No, 912 respondents. That seems like a very high amount of people, and hopefully it's positive changes, and 76% of the 912 people who gave feedback said that they think it's going in the right direction. We'll see how it rolls out next year. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Matthews. The next two presenters both need a screen, so the board can go ahead and move down to the first row. First, Mr. Sedvey is going to give us an update from Auburn Career Center, followed by Vanessa Te'iosu from Burgess & Burgess, who's going to share results from both the online and phone survey. So the board now will move down.
Well, let me just say before I get down there, things have been happening at Auburn Career Center. One thing we realized was that there were a lot of people that were not aware of Auburn Career Center and what they did. So we signed on a marketing firm, and the short video that I have to show is part of our promotion that we will have on our website. It's from a alumni, and he tells how it has helped him with his business. So show that 3 minutes.
All kinds of one-off custom motorcycles. We do service work, custom paint, machining, engine work, welding. Welding is the big thing I think that I'm going to really emphasize today is that I'm a graduate in 2009 from Auburn Career Center. I took the welding program for 2 years there as a junior and senior, and the benefits from that welding program are huge for what I've used in my company now the last 10 years. through my company and through welding and everything I've learned in my education, really the biggest things for me is about 4 or 5 years ago, we went on Discovery Channel. We were asked, it wasn't something I chased after. It was kind of, I was just sitting around and Discovery called me and said, you know, we've hand-selected you, would you like to do that? Been on the cover of magazines. The biggest thing for me to get with that kind of stuff is making a name, making a reputation. They came to us because our work spoke for itself and our quality. That's, I think, something I learned the most at Auburn Career Center was learning that, you know, kind of that motivated like work ethic and really pushing yourself. I think that was the biggest thing that I learned. And people see that, they respect that. I did an article for a magazine and they said, who do you look up to? And I said, well, it's Jesse James, Indian Larry, and the third one's the most important one. They're like, and who's that? I said, I think it's the person who's in their garage working. I think the person who gets up every day, doesn't live off of motivation through like credentials and what they do and who they know and the money and cars they drive. The people are just happy to get up every morning. You know, those are the people that, you know, to be successful, I think that's it. You know, that's a disconnect because everyone sees, you know, all the Hollywood stars and they see this, they're like, that's what I need. You know, I need a Bugatti and I need a Ferrari and I need a $500,000 house or bigger. I know people with that stuff and they're not any happier than people who have nothing. I think sometimes I've seen people with nothing be happier, but like when you learn a trade and like you learn about work and work ethic, like you're proud to get up every morning, even if you're tired, and it's definitely hard work, but like that's where it's emphasized the most. If you're afraid to make that jump to, you know, go that sophomore year and, you know, look into an open house or what you want to see for a trade, keep your eyes open and kind of see. If you're afraid, I wouldn't be, because I think it's scarier when you get out and you graduate and you don't have something you found, whether it's a trade, whether it's, you know, education, you took CCP through another college. I mean, things like that, I think it's scary because I see people in their mid-20s, early 20s, early 30s, and they're like, I'm trying to find myself still. And that's kind of scary. It's not a bad thing, but it's like, you should kind of find something now, and at least if it's not that good, it's something in your educational toolbox. I tell people is you should have something there. If you learn welding, learn machining, you learn IT, web design, whatever it may be, you kind of can't unlearn that once you've learned it. So it's like, why not have that in your toolbox, and if it's not for you, find something else. But at least those 2 years were good. It looks good even on the resume. You went and got some education, and really, I mean, it's paid for publicly, so why not go? You know, I mean, what you have to do, do it. I got to Auburn, that kind of made me realize, like, I talked to people who were traveling on the road, you know, real welders, pipe welders, like, wow, this is what it is. So I kind of went from like kid mode to like, this is what it takes. These are the people I need to be around. So I started, I guess, rewiring my brain to kind of think more like an adult even though I was a kid. And I wanted to motivate myself to be closer to that experience level. And I asked a ton of questions. Ready? Go.
Okay, the reason why we kind of concentrated on welding was because we have found that that's what a lot of companies are looking for right now. There are not enough people in the welding field to take care of what the local industry needs to have done. And also, along with the promotion, we have made up a new folder with our new trademark, which is a big A with an exclamation point. I think it looks great. I have a few of them on the table back there if you want to take a look at them. And also I wanted to say that on last Tuesday before our board meeting, we had the annual board dinner for the board and their families at the restaurant there. The kids did an absolutely wonderful job. Not only did they cook the food, but they also made up the menu, and everything was served very professionally, and I was very impressed by the work that they did. We do have 2 students that were involved in that project, Caleb Grubbs and Zachary Latterer, the 2 that were in the group that made the dinner. And also, I wanted to point out these poinsettias. Those are from our horticultural classes. The students had to come to Auburn enjoying. And that's all I have.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to participate today with your community research results. I know there's a board member over here, so I'm going to try to direct myself to both of you, so both groups. The presentation on the screen is brand new, as in I'm still analyzing data at 5 minutes before I got into the car. So I apologize that you don't have this printed in front of you, but you will after this meeting. I'll be able to provide this to you electronically. Just to remind everyone of the purpose of the community research, we did both an online survey and a telephone survey, and the purpose of the surveys are to reflect your community back to you. What happens often, especially in board meetings or when we associate with people who are closest to us, is that we tend to operate in silos. People that agree with us tend to tell us what we want to hear, or people who tend to disagree tend to be a little bit louder. So really the middle majority of your community, those people who might not have children in the district or day-to-day interactions with the school district, might be silent on matters that still reflect something that they need to understand or know. We know that the purpose of this survey is to help you guide a transition plan and a decision-making process. This is just one component of all of the data that the board and the administrative team have to process and analyze, and I understand that, so I want to be able to give you an overview of what these results mean. There are two sets of data, as I mentioned, the online survey and the phone survey, and they represent both a qualitative and a quantitative research component. So the purpose of the online survey was to give us a broad range of thoughts and perceptions that then we could quantify with the phone survey. So just really quickly about the methodology. Am I pushing the wrong button? Thank you. The online survey methodology. Over 277 people completed the survey, and while that sounds like a large sample, I just want to point out that this is an opt-in survey, so it's not what we would consider a scientific or a statistically accurate survey. The people who, again, are highly motivated are the ones who tend to participate. There was a public link available from the 26th of October through November 11th, and it was advertised pretty broadly. We sent press releases to the local papers and the media outlets. The full list is there. It was also on the district's website and social media networks. So as I said, because it measures the thoughts and perceptions of the people closest to the school district, you'll see some differences in the results compared to the phone survey, but you'll also see interesting parallels. Now about the phone survey, next slide. The phone survey was conducted by a separate firm, and that is intentional so that we can maintain objectivity. So our firm administers the online survey, but we work with LJR Custom Strategies based out of Washington, D.C. to complete the survey. We wrote the instrument together so that it would mirror the online survey with few changes, but their survey process includes a random sample from the list of voters, but we screened to ensure that they lived in the Newbury district, but not their frequency of voting. So we know that they're registered to vote, but we didn't ask them how frequently they voted or what the last election was that they voted in. The survey was conducted December 2nd through the 6th, so you can see that this is very, very, very fresh data. And because the proliferance of cell phones happens to be increasing very quickly, you'll see that there's a 26% sample that was completed from cell phones, 74% were landlines. And we talk about the findings of the sample to the full sample. It says 230 because that was the full completed survey. So they were only counted if they completed the entire survey. And you'll see that there's a margin of error of 6.5%. This is about standard. Sometimes you'll see with larger sample sizes of like 400 or 500 margin of error plus or minus 4.5%. What this means is that at a confidence level of 93%, if you repeat this survey 100 times, the survey result will come within 6.5% every time. Thank you. So this might not be translating exactly as it looks like on my screen, so it might be a little difficult to read from your seats. But the respondent overview of the online survey, you'll see, and it's hard to see, I apologize for this, 61% of the people who responded to the online survey were female. This is significant because when people respond to surveys, you'll see mostly women respond to both phone and online surveys, but this doesn't necessarily properly reflect your community, where it's more like 51% female, 49% male. The phone survey, however, is exactly that. When it comes to the online, or the age break, no, you can go, yeah, age breakdown, you'll again see a big difference in the age breakdown of the respondents between the online and the phone survey. So if you look at the online survey, it's a smaller proportion of people that are 65 plus compared to your phone survey. And in your phone survey, 42% of the respondents were 65 plus. This is significant because in your last election, 43% of the people who cast a ballot were 65 plus. So the phone survey, again, more closely mirrors and reflects what your actual voting electorate looks like. The rest of the breakdown, you'll see those are the blue bars. Those are a little bit closer, but that's the biggest discrepancy you can see. And then the 35 to 44 age group, again, is slightly overrepresented on the online survey, 21% in the online survey versus 4% in the phone survey. And that is, again, because that tends to be parents of school-aged children. But the only reason I explain the differences in the demographic breakdown is so that you can see the difference in their responses a little bit later. In the next slide, we look at the length of residency, how long they've lived in the district. And because in the online survey, teachers also could take part in the survey, 16.6% of the online survey respondents did not live in the district. But when you look at the phone survey, you'll see that 62% of the respondents lived in the district at least 20 years, so these are people with a long history in the community, a lot of community knowledge. They answered the survey at a much higher rate. And then throughout the rest of the age breakdowns, they're within 1 or 2 points of each other, or I'm sorry, the length of residence. So this cuts off just a little bit, but I'll read as much as I can so you can see it. This is the relationship to the school district. The difference between the online survey and the phone survey, again, is pretty impressive here. You'll see that in the parent or guardian of students, 11% of the phone respondents were parents, 28% of the online survey are parents. You'll also see the relationship with staff. There's more in the online survey versus the phone survey. And this is inverse from the other colors, so I just want to make sure you are looking at the correct key. But you'll see an overrepresentation here of people who are parents or guardians of alumni. The difference between the online and the phone survey here are pretty stark too. But again, these are people who lived in the district for a very, very long time and have long roots in the district. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the results, because this is where I think the rubber meets the road. In the phone survey, you'll see this bar chart. The dark blue represents people that rate the quality of education as excellent. The light blue is good. The red bar is fair or poor. And you'll see here that 57% of all respondents rate the quality of education as good or poor, or good or excellent, I'm sorry. 57% good or excellent. What's remarkable here, especially compared to our work in other school districts, is that only 13% here rated the district excellent when it comes to quality of education. You usually see this closer to 70–80% good, excellent, with usually the intensity in the 50% range for excellent. But if you look down the columns a little bit, you'll see that there are some areas, some demographic groups, like those who are 18 to 44, and those who are alum, that tend to rate the school district's education better. And again, the intensity here is on good, not excellent, which is very different from what we see in other school districts across the state. And I've worked with probably over 200 school districts for some context. Now looking at the next slide, this shows the same question but for the online survey. Can you just advance the slide? Thank you. So in the excellent or good category, in this slide, this is 61.4% rated as excellent or good, so about 5 points higher. But again, 35.4% rated excellent. And this is, again, an oversampling of people who are closest to the district. In the next slide, we looked at the intensity of the ratings compared compared to their relationship with the school district. And there's no surprise here, but teachers and parents were more likely to rate the district's quality of education as good or excellent on the online survey. The largest cohort to say that you were only fair or poor comes from parents who have no kids in the school district, and they have school-aged children, so these are people who opted to go to another school district or a private school. So no surprise there that they would rate you a little bit more poorly. Moving on to the next one. So we asked in the phone survey, we asked in a similar way in the online survey, to rate those factors that provide you some sort of rating when it comes to educational priorities. What are the factors that are most important when it comes to a school district doing their basic job of providing a full service to the community? No surprise here that the number one priority is to keep school taxes affordable here. 93% said it was either a top or medium priority. And again, I just want to draw your attention to the dark blue line or the bright blue line. That represents top priority. So if you look at just that top blue line, you'll see that school tax affordability, hiring and retaining quality teachers, and quality educational opportunities are the highest priority of the top priorities. And those are 79%, 75%, 77% in order, rated those as top priorities. The only one that is close then is facilities and technology, ensuring up-to-date facilities and technology for the classroom, rated at 73% top priority. Now, if you look all the way down, the rest of those ratings are still pretty high. They're in the 80s, in the high 70s. But when you look at the top priority, that's when the numbers start to dwindle, and you'll see closer to like 52%, for instance, in honoring our community's history and culture. 59% rate that one as a top priority, which is the lowest rating of all of these options. Looking at the same data for the online survey, the top three items here are a wide array of course offerings for all levels. The number two was quality, well-paid teachers. 3 is financial stability of the district. So very, very similar findings as the phone survey. So these are where they're parallel. And what's interesting is at the very end of the line, again, just like in the phone survey, was maintaining institutional memory and culture. This is significant because that was often offered in the verbatim responses, but when they were quantified and prioritized against all of the other things that a school district has to factor in, it filtered to the bottom. And not far from the bottom either was the ratings on the state report card. We also looked at that same data for the online survey based on their relationship to the school district. And right in the middle of that chart, alumni, residents with no children enrolled in the schools, and parents of alumni had the same top 3 items. Same top 3 priorities: wide array of course offerings, financial stability, and well-paid teachers. But then we see a difference here between teachers and parents. Again, those with closest, most firsthand information about the schools. They rated number 1 as quality, well-paid teachers. No surprise there. But look across the board for financial stability. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That was at the top of people's list regardless of where they were. And then teachers ranked wide array of course offerings as number 3, whereas parents liked specialized support staff as a priority, and then wide array of course offerings came in 4th. So when you look at it just by cohort, by demographic group in relationship to the district, you see still similar top 3s. They're still all within a few points of each other. So, when we ask your community to tell us about those difficult challenges facing the school district, again, bright red is major challenge. The lighter shaded red, the pink, is a minor challenge. You'll see that the top 3 are declining enrollment, the school's financial stability, and ensuring to provide programs that prepare students for college and their future careers. Those are the top 3 priorities. And just as reference, declining enrollment was 73% major challenge, financial stability was 56% major challenge, and preparing students for their futures was 54% major challenge. So those have a majority of the people responding saying it was a major challenge. The other items were in the high 40s, but still did not, while they reached plurality, they did not reach a majority. So that included classroom technology, extracurriculars, meeting state standards, and communicating effectively with residents. Again, this is the phone survey responses. So when you compare that to the online survey respondents, the most critical challenges, again, declining enrollment at the top. And what's interesting here, the numbers kind of fell off this chart when it converted to the zip drive, so I apologize for that. But declining enrollment in that last slide was 87%. On this slide is 88% in terms of major or minor challenge, with 66% saying it was a major challenge. Financial stability, 84% in the online survey, it was 83% in the phone survey. So we're seeing a lot of parallels here, regardless of the demographic group that responded through both methods, the responses are very similar. But in the online survey, the third option that was the highest priority or the most difficult challenge was increased taxes for schools. Then the following items like effectively communicating with residents, providing academic programs that prepare students for their futures, up-to-date classroom technology, extracurricular activities, and meeting state mandates are more secondary challenges according to your online survey respondents. What's interesting about this, though, is that providing academic programs that prepare students for college and jobs was ranked 5th in terms of major challenges from your parents and staff, were the majority of the respondents to the online survey, compared to number 3 when it came to your whole community. That's an interesting difference in findings. Although they're still very important, I'm assuming that what that means is that the people who are closest to you believe that you're already addressing preparing students for college and their careers, so it's not something that they consider a challenge. So this is according to the phone survey, how many people have heard about the merger or exploration of a potential merger. You'll see here that all respondents, 40% of them said that they heard a lot, while only 33% said they heard some, 11% not much, and 15% had heard nothing. So 73% of the people in your community have heard something about this merger exploration, which is not shocking. It's been in the news, it's been discussed for many, many years. But usually when we ask questions like this that are controversial subjects in school districts, we will find that that number is actually much, much lower. The people who've heard a lot or something about the conversations about the merger. So this is an informed community compared to others. So that's what makes the other findings, the previous findings, that much more interesting. They've heard a lot more than people have heard in other districts about topics that we think everybody's talking about because that's what we're talking about. It's often not the case on the ground. But here, they're pretty darn informed, so that's a pretty impressive number. You'll see that women eke out a little bit more information than men in the sample, but for the most part, there's not a big variance among the demographic groups. I mean, even people with no connection to the schools, say 48% have heard a lot. So this says that this conversation has been out in the community for a long time and people have been processing this information for a while. Then in the phone survey, or I'm sorry, in the online survey, we've asked the question a little bit differently, and again, the coding seemed to have fallen off when we converted it to the zip drive. But those last 3 columns, 7, 8, 9, 10, 56.4% rate of familiarity as 7 or higher. Only 25% said it's 4 to 6, which would be like an intermediate, they've heard some about it, and 11% only said that they've heard very little about it in the online survey. So still, similar numbers, you're still around 70-some% have heard something about this merger. So in the phone survey, we asked the question, what is your biggest concern about a potential merger? And we left it as an open-ended question, which means people could offer whatever they wanted to say in this portion of the phone survey. And the phone bank survey firm recorded all of the information and then post-coded it and dumped it into categories after they reviewed all of the results. So what's interesting is this was not something that was offered, but 38% of the respondents told us right away that there was no concern from them. They were for the merger. And that's that gray bar that says 38%. And the 3 items below it all total 38%. So someone said, offer right away, we just need to merge, and 2% said, you know, what we're doing isn't working, and we can't just keep doing this. The next band of respondents fall into the financial category. 25% of their concerns, 25% say that their biggest concern is financial. What the tax implications will be for the community, how much it will cost, and will there be a relative drop in property values when there's a local building nearby. The third band of concerns, which actually is the second band of concerns because the first was just an opinion, 15% mentioned logistics. Those logistical concerns mostly are about what happens to the teachers and staff, and where will the students go, what will happen to the rest of the buildings if they're not in use, and what will the transportation implications be for kids. And those, again, are small numbers. You'll see those are 2% for the facilities and transportation. 8% of the concerns were about the student experience. What happens when they're in a larger building? Will they feel left out? Will it be hard for them to assimilate? Will the class sizes be too big? This is also something we heard in the online survey. What's the makeup of the student population? And less so the concern, what will the quality of education be? The rest of the concerns we put into another category, that which is losing sense of the community, the kind of core that they associate with, and then all other, meaning they've mentioned all of the other concerns, or they just don't want a merger. 7% refused the open-ended question, so they just didn't give us any answer. When we asked that in the online survey, 40% said that they were concerned about the impact on students. 22% said impact on quality of life, meaning what happens to our neighborhoods, what happens to our communities without a school. No concerns, 18% of the people. Again, this was just offered because it was an open-ended question that said, what are your concerns about a potential merger? And 12% were a little unsure of the process that led this Newbury schools to this point. And 6% were concerned about what the other school districts would be able to provide Newbury students. And you see that word cloud at the bottom there, and that's just an amalgamation of all of the 47 pages of open-ended responses. But I wanted you to be able to see the words that continue to come up. There were some concerns. There was some immediate support, but there are some items that people want to make sure they understand and that they're assured of before they move forward. In the online survey, we asked a question we didn't ask in the phone survey, and in the online survey is, what are you looking forward to with a potential merger if it would happen? And here, this is what's interesting. 51.1% said that they thought that students would have an overall improved educational or extracurricular experience if they were able to be in a merged school district. So they talked about the student experience here in a positive. 4% thought, just offered right away, that merging is a good idea without a lot of evidence about what they thought that they would be looking forward to. 26% offered that they, 27% almost, offered that they are not looking forward to the merger at all. 12% thought about the financial impact and the cost savings that might be associated with achieving some economies of scale. And 5.6% believed that they would be able to have opportunities in more up-to-date facilities or grander facilities. Again, another wordle here, another word cloud. The word more was offered so many more times compared to any other word. They just believe that the opportunities will be more for the communities and the students. So I think that that's just kind of an interesting contrast when we look at the two word clouds side by side. And again, keeping in mind that that online survey represented, again, mostly parents and students, or I'm sorry, parents, students, and teachers. So we always ask this question about your preferred source of information, not where they currently get their information from, but where do you want to get your information from? You'll see here in the phone survey that represents the broader community, 71% want to read it in the newspaper. They believe that that's their unbiased source of information. 57% said district newsletters, so directly from the school district, but in print. And 27% said district website, and that was tied with school board meetings. And that's probably a little bit more to do with hearing it straight from you. Teachers and staff, still a fifth of voters, voters want to hear from teachers and staff. It's close to what the district Facebook page would be. And then 14% rely on a community Facebook page that's not affiliated district. Because people could could opt into just one, you'll see that this is, or I'm sorry, multiple ones, you'll see that this clearly totals more than 100. And this reflects what normal people do. We all look at multiple sources of information. Very few people only rely on one source of information. And then looking at the online survey, which again is a slightly different population, the preferred methods of communication are the school district newsletter. And these are people who probably anticipate receiving the newsletter because, again, they're parents or the parents of alum, and they're still closely related to the school district. And if you see that bar that's right next to it is the website, so 61%, 61.7 for the newsletter, 60.4 for the website. Those are really high numbers. So they want to be able to go officially to school district sources. And then third is 49.6% is the district Facebook page. The local newspaper is at 36.1%. So they want to hear directly from the school district from the online survey perspective. They don't want to necessarily hear it through the filter of someone else. I know this is a lot of data, and it's a lot of dense data, and I probably just spoke really quickly. I talk fast, so I apologize if you need me to go over this again. But I'm going to give you a quick summary, and these are my reactions to the data, comparing it to what we've seen in other school districts and what I know about Newbury, having worked on a similar project 3 years ago, and once on another project over 15 years ago with the same school district. What is interesting is that your quality of education ratings are lower compared to other school districts. Even some questionable school districts in the state of Ohio still rate the quality of education as better. You have a lot of community pride in your schools, so I would normally expect to see that number be up about 15 to 20%. Your top priorities as a community are clear in both sets of data: affordable school taxes, quality education, and quality educators. And when I say quality education, it's making sure that students have opportunities to participate in academic and extracurricular activities that will help prepare them for their futures. That's universal. And the school taxes and the impact on education go hand in hand because that's a community value. The top two challenges, both survey data sets came out exactly the same: declining enrollment and financial stability. People are generally informed, pretty aware about the potential merger conversations, and that, again, is a slightly higher number, which reflects your more informed community. The phone survey, when we asked about what their concerns were, just a reminder, the top three categories were financial, logistical, and student experience, all things that can be researched, explained, and communicated to your community. The online survey concerns, the top three instead were student experience, the quality of life in the community without a school, and the process that led us here. So a little bit less about items that have easy answers and more about community values and conversations that people would have in their own neighborhoods. In both surveys, and this is interesting, the plurality of respondents offered support for the merger without being asked if they support a merger. We didn't ask by design, because that's not the purpose of this type of survey. The purpose of this type of survey is to understand the broad thoughts and the broad perceptions of your community. And when they offer something that they weren't asked, it tells you that that's something that they clearly know and understand. And what is more interesting and impressive to me is that 51.5% of the respondents to the online survey, which is a more highly motivated group of people, offered support for a merger. We didn't ask them that. And I'm not going to say that that's the most scientific measure because, as I said, it's an opt-in process. And because we didn't ask it, we don't know what the other people would have said if they were asked directly. But I just thought it was an interesting data set that you have to process with all of the other information that you're processing. For next steps, what we would recommend is to continue prioritizing community and parent concerns as you look at what your future will look like. Finances, academic offerings, but also vacant buildings. The quality of life items that kept coming up in your phone survey and in your online survey seem to be what happens next to the facilities, almost more than what happens next to our community. And then your parent concerns mostly revolve around student experiences. Will my students still be able to participate in these activities? Will my student feel lost or scared if the class sizes are bigger, if the hallways are more crowded, if the overall student body is larger? So we encourage you to continue, because I've been following online and I've been paying attention, to continue communicating these decisions and the process. And when people say that they're informed at the levels that they're saying you're informed, I can say that the district has been doing a good job about it, but keep explaining the process through the newsletter, website, newspaper, and social media specifically. And I say newspaper third because the newspaper will do what they will do. The newsletter, the website, and social media is what you control. So I urge you to continue doing that. And then if you do move forward with a potential merger, I would just encourage you to work with the community to determine what the potential long-term uses or possible removal for vacated buildings, because that seems to loom large in the community. And making sure that people are aware of what the timeline is and what the financial impact will be, regardless of the decision you make, is also clearly important when finances always end up being at the top of all the concern lists. That's a lot, I understand. And again, I will send this to you electronically in the morning when I can clean it up. Do you have any questions for me?
We'll send our questions from tonight to Dr. White, I presume, and she'll get them over to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I have some of the raw data if you have anything specific that you'd like a little bit more information on. No, thank you.
Madam President and members of the board, next on the agenda are the personnel agenda items D1 through D6 that I would ask for your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you call roll?
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedeby?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes.
Thank you, and that concludes my part of tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Coins. Mrs. Palmer, please share your report and recommendations with us.
Madam President, members of the board, I would like to recommend the approval of payments in lieu of transportation for two students attending St. Anselm and St. Joan of Arc, not to exceed $250 per student.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedeby?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes. Motion passes.
Madam President, members of the board, I would like to recommend to approve the contract with the Safe Schools Hotline for the period of January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019 in the approximate amount of $300.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedeby?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes.
Madam President, members of the board, I would like to recommend approval of a $2,500 grant from the Ohio School Safety in the amount of $2,500. This will be Fund 499-9018.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedeby?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes.
Madam President, members of the board, I would like to recommend approval of the November general expenditures were a little bit up this month. It was a 3-pay month, and so we saw those increases. There was also an increase in some of the health insurance premiums that we're paying for the month. Purchase services were also up, and revenues were down, just due to some timing issues of when we receive our payments, but I do expect those to correct themselves next month. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedovy?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, under the Board of Education report and recommendation, there's a motion to approve a one-year contract for Jacqueline Hoynes, superintendent, for 2019-2020 school year in the amount of $110,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Good. I appreciate the polls being sent over, so thank you. Because having empirical data to support you is a level of just your demeanor. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to working with you again next year. Grateful. Thank you. Any others? Okay.
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sedovy?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes. Motion passes. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? If not, we can move on to new business. Any new business? Okay. Moving on to the public participation. Before that, I did want to thank for doing your survey. That was a lot of information for us to absorb, but I will take a look at the electronic copy and get you any questions. I would say that that is the last piece of data that the board was looking for to analyze. We are getting closer to a decision. And I would say in the preliminary, listening to that, it concludes the information that we anticipated to hear. Nothing was earth-shattering from that information. So I appreciate that delivery, and the board will take a closer look at it once we receive the survey results electronically. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the board? I know Mr. Gifford has signed up, so you can come forward first, and then after that, we can open up to the floor.
Most of my discussion is about the schedule. So, I have a copy of what you have that is being passed out to the public also.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, administration members, and members of the audience. My name is Dave Gifford, and I live at 11825 Pekin Road in Newbury, Ohio. I'm a Newbury graduate, a taxpayer in Newbury, a former school board member, and a retired CPA. In your work session on November 29th, you went through much information about potential transfers to Berkshire and West Jogga school districts. I'm glad to see that you're investigating each alternative thoroughly. You discussed academic issues, extracurricular issues, and economic issues. I took the information that Beverly Sustar of the County Auditor's Office provided and calculated then the impact on my family's economic situation. I thought you might benefit from seeing the impact of the three alternatives from an individual taxpayer's point of view, so I have prepared some examples. The top section including lines 1 through 10, shows a calculation of the current taxes in Newbury to support the school system. I chose 6 different levels for the market value of a home. I arbitrarily used a level of earned income that was 1/2 of the amount of the market value of the house. This provides 6 different examples. I'll focus on the $75,000 home and the $300,000 home. The Berkshire School income tax is based on earned income. Earned income is money you've earned through your job, trade, or profession. On your tax return, earned income is the wages on your W-2 forms, or if you're self-employed, it's the earnings from your Schedule C. It does not include interest, dividends, capital gains, Social Security payments, pensions, IRA distributions, or any other type of retirement income. The second example is a transfer to West Jaga, as shown on lines 11 through 21. Newbury and Berkshire taxpayers pay 1.5 mils of the tax for the Auburn Career Center. West Jaga does not have any vocational millage. Under this scenario, the owner of a home with a $75,000 market value would save $427 per year, and the owner of a home with a $300,000 market value would save $1,707 per year, as shown on line 21. The third example is a transfer to Berkshire, as shown on lines 22 through 32. Berkshire has the same vocational tax that Newbury does, but their real estate tax is considerably lower because they are also supported by the earned income tax. Assuming the level of income shown, the owner of a house of a $75,000 market value would save $158 per year. The owner of a home with a $300,000 market value would save $632 per year, as shown on line 32. A final example is shown on line 33. It assumes a transfer to Berkshire and the market value of the home, as shown on line 22. However, it assumes the taxpayer is a senior citizen who is retired and has no earned income. In that case, the savings would be $533 for a house with a $75,000 market value and $2,132 for a house with a market value of $300,000. These pro forma results are generalized estimates. They do not account for the homestead exemption or the $50 senior citizen credit on the school earned income tax return. However, they are representative of what taxpayers can expect. The decision you make for the future of Newbury schools should not be based on the impact on the taxpayers or the students alone. It needs to take into account the interests of both. You must decide if you think that the academic and extracurricular experience of Newbury students will be the best at Newbury, at Berkshire, or at West Jaga. If you find that students would be well served at any of these schools, then your decision should come down to a matter of cost. Any questions?
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak?
Good evening. Russ Hanby, 11149 Whitewood Drive, Newbury, Ohio. Two things. One is old business. I'd like to thank this board for their representation at the girls volleyball district championship. Mr. Sanders attended that event along with several community members, staff members, teachers, Dr. Chafee and his assistant coaches, of course, and the players and their parents. It was a phenomenal community experience, and it was great to see the board represented, so thank you for doing that. Also, I spent a dreary Sunday afternoon watching your 2.5-hour meeting, and I sincerely need to commend all of you for your professionalism and to be able to compartmentalize the business of that meeting and the passion that all of you have for your position in this situation. I am a proud husband of a substitute teacher here. I'm a proud father of 2 current students and 2 graduate students, and one that made it all the way through 8th grade before he moved on to somewhere else. So I am passionate about this community. I decided to move here. I decided to stay here. I'm passionate about this school because I have seen what these teachers and these educators and these administrators are capable of doing with my family and with my children. So I have seen your passion since you've come on this board. I personally believe that passion is pointed in one direction, and I simply ask you this evening, will that same passion be pointed in the other direction? Will that same passion be pointed towards evaluating data? You all talk about data consistently, talk about data. Will that same passion be applied to the data that needs to be made available to you to keep the school open? Will that time, that energy that you've put in so far, in the direction that you've been going, will it be put in to the other direction to consider keeping the school open?
Thank you. Okay. If that's all for public input, is there a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the evaluation of the superintendent? Second. Discussion?
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes?
Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoll?
Yes. For any media or anyone who's interested, there is no vote to call